in the last 48 hours or so, there's been a back and forth between the government and the governor of Benue State and the villa. So when the president said, if I had offended you, forgive me, does this include the governor of Benue State?
The president of Nigeria does not have ill will towards anyone. This is clearly demonstrated over the years by his actions. As we speak today, there is no politician in detention for things that they have said against President Muhammadu Buhari. There is no journalist in detention for things that they have written or said against President Muhammadu Buhari. So Muhammadu Buhari does not personally hold grudges against individuals. He's a very forgiving person, and this is why he maintains a steady, stable health. He goes to bed with nothing against anyone on his mind, and he sleeps very soundly.
Why does he think that he has offended people? Perhaps his critics would have said, okay, you came to office on a tripod of promise to fix the economy, end insecurity in Nigeria, and of course, fight corruption. If it's based on those policies, maybe that's one reason they may hold a grievance on him or with him, and perhaps thinking, as the president delivered on the promises that he made to Nigerians, now that he knows he has just about 40 days to leave office, does the president feel that in some way there may have been some shortcomings in the delivery of his promises to Nigerians?
Two things, Shehu, I would like to say. One is that, yes, the president asked for pardon from those he may have offended, but it's clear that there was no personal or specific admission of wrongdoing on his part. And two, I think we should not take the speech out of the context in which it was made. This essentially was a religious get-together. Occasions like this, and I believe it is in all the scriptures, prayers are always said for the victim and the abuser. It happens. And for those coming from the background of Islamic religious faith, responsibility means more than what it ordinarily does to a number of people. As president and commander-in-chief, the president has a responsibility, that's the Islamic law, for everything that happens in the country, daytime, nighttime, whatever season. In the same way as you, as the head of a family, you're responsible.
There seems to be some...
May not by, and the president may not by himself gone out to offend somebody. But all of the authorities that report to him, whether they are tax authorities or financial crimes authorities, in the conduct of their duty, they may cross some lines. As far as that context is concerned, President Muhammadu Buhari is equally liable, in fact, singly responsible for being head of state.
So, if you now look at it, Mr. Shehu, although the president and governors have the prerogative to give pardon and clemency, but I don't know if some of the Nigerians whom he's asking for their pardon, they will find it in their heart on a day like this to pardon the president. And let's put into context this time around the performance of President Buhari. I mean, Governor Otom might be very critical of this government, but the question is that many Nigerians have died under the watch of President Buhari, who in 2015 said that he will fight insecurity to his nails. and those who will say, in fact, things may have gotten worse under President Buhari's watch. This might be one of the reasons he's asking for forgiveness. But how much of forgiveness can some of those who have lost their siblings, their friends, their family members will be able to give for that government who promised that it's going to secure their lives, but they find it difficult to live peacefully? As the people of Southern Kaduna today, they will tell you a story, a sad one, isn't it?
Well, let me say that I believe that Nigerians are large-hearted people. They will forgive the president. And my hope and wish is, let's not make this a conversation on Mr. Autumn and his Benue. Now that the people of Benue have passed a judgment on his 8 years in office. Now, this is the beauty of democracy. The day of judgment is the day you go to the voter to ask for a new mandate. And the voter has the right to decline in a working democracy. And this is exactly what happened in Benue. So, as we said in our statement, if anybody wants to know who is responsible, who is chiefly responsible for all that had happened in Benue State, talk to the Benue people. That's all.
Well, that was just a premise to reference the insecurity situation in the country. And I'm saying that if you can only pass or fail in the area of insecurity that the president said he was going to fix, could this be a failure? One of the things that the president is asking for pardon for.
Well, if the event this morning was aired live, you probably would have seen religious leaders, Muslim and Christian, speak about how much difference the president has made to the fact that as a bishop, as a presiding bishop or imam, you cannot enter your place of worship, church or mosque, without being screened, for bombs or weapons that you may be taken into that place of worship. It was that bad. And they were thankful to the president that all of that has gone. And let me say that, looking at the overall picture of security in the country, yes, it is true that there are still flashes of insecurity that happen in a number of places. But if you look at the big picture, the overall picture, looking at where we were coming from, where there was a total loss of control, where this country had been divided into two, with a section of it declared of a republic of some sort, with their flag, with their system of administration, taxation, and all of that. Come on, we have come a long way. We've gone very, very far away from those situations. And it is not as if anyone is letting up. President will work hard, will continue to do so until his last day in office on these matters.
Well, that is a naughty area that if we dwell on it, we might debate from now till tomorrow morning. But one area also that the president promised to really deal with is the area of the economy. But, I wouldn't even want to go into some aspect of the economy, but I will go into the aspect that is a bit very worrisome, and it's also going to affect the issue of security. About half of our population are poor. The NBA statistics shows that we have about 82 million Nigerians living in poverty. In fact, another figure, which is also staggering, is the fact that about 150 million Nigerians are in multi-dimensional poverty. If a president were to come 8 years ago, and we're looking back now to assess, if the president is to graduate after an 8-year study, for someone who said, is God what it takes to fix the economy, and you are leaving 153 or so million Nigerians out of the 200 million in multidimensional poverty, I don't know how this government is going to rate or grade itself. or half of the population who cannot even afford $1 to feed a day. Isn't that embarrassing or perhaps disappointing for this government itself?
Well, I want you to reflect for a moment and to think. If the country had been governed in the last 8 years for another person, somebody other than President Muhammadu Buhari, what would have been the situation? Given his background of strict discipline, almost a Spartan lifestyle, and consider the massive corruption we're coming from, the years of PDP that we had inherited. Consider a situation in which this country, as we speak today, was without the massive agricultural program that has seen us exit importation of so many food items, including rice. Imagine what poverty would have been like if the infrastructure that had collapsed before we came in had continued to go in that same direction. That you didn't have the second Niger bridge. You didn't have all of the massive projects going on, Lagos, Ibadan, Abuja, Kaduna, Kano, the gas pipeline linking Ajakuta to Kano. And all of these infrastructure deficits, including power generation, which has today risen to nearly 20,000 or even more megawatts. These are jobs. This is welfare for Nigerian people. So
but
yes,
what are the statistics saying otherwise? If you are referencing these, well, yes, we can see them. But the statistics by the MBS, that is probably controlled by the government itself, is giving figures. 33.3% of our Nigerians are unemployed. Mr. Shehu, these things that you're saying don't reflect in the figures.
Shehu, the crisis, cost of living crisis, is a global phenomenon. Nigerians need to just look beyond our shores and see how national economies are going into dissolution, liquidation. See what's happening to Kenya, to South Africa, to Ghana, all of these countries, even Europe itself. And so therefore, there is a global crisis that has afflicted the entire, global economy. When COVID came, all nations of the world recessed in their economies, except perhaps China. And this has continued to be compounded by crisis in supply systems, again warranted by ongoing situation between Ukraine and Russia and all of that. So what am I saying? That everyone is managing a bad situation, and Nigeria is not doing badly in doing this.
Is it possible that the president will erase some of the bad memories of these last 8 years from the minds of Nigerians? A lot of them that may not be happy with him, that may be so agitated at things that this government's 8 years was a total failure.
I don't know anyone who is saying, except for opposition political parties that ran in the last election, I don't know anyone saying that 8 years is a total failure. But government policies under President Muhammadu Buhari are driven by the best of intentions, never driven by reasons of wickedness or ill will towards the national population. When you talked extensively on the currency exchange, a phenomenon, you obviously also ignore the fact that this is an administration that had launched a series of economic reform programs, one of which targeted the massive corruption that we inherited from the PDP years. And what it meant is that election should not be, this country had good elections, off-season elections from the time President Muhammadu Buhari took power to now. And every assessment that had been made came to say that good election, good turnout, all of that. However, the influence of money has been a big issue. So what is wrong in saying, well, can we have Nigerians decide who to lead them away from the influence of money? That's just one thing. And see all of these things that about the kidnapping that people are talking about these days. When the currency thing was going on, did the kidnappers move against Nigerians? So these things also have their benefits.